All right, well, if you or your child has been diagnosed with a food allergy, then you may be transitioning your diet and realizing that it can be a bit of a challenge, but it doesn't have to be. Ken Shear with Rock a Healthy Lifestyle is here with a few tips that he thought it might help you, and after talking to you in the green room, it's definitely going to help. Welcome to Sonoran Living.
Thanks for having me on.
So, obviously, food allergies, near and dear to your heart, unfortunately.
Well, it's been 17 years. I was diagnosed with gluten intolerance 17 years ago when I was in college, so it was a lot more challenging back then because there was no awareness and there wasn't any information on the internet, and really there was no resources like there are today. So embracing that today for people is going to be a lot easier than it was back then.
Right. I imagine you just had to sort of stop eating everything and then just sort of see what made you sick, and then don't eat that, because they didn't know what was in a lot of the stuff.
Totally. I'd walk into restaurants, ask for things to be gluten-free, and they'd look at me like I was a freak at the table.
Right,
so
they didn't even know what gluten was.
Absolutely. So.
Okay, well, there is something important that people can do if they, well, let's start with some of the symptoms. Like, how would you even know that you had a food allergy?
Well, I think a lot of times after you eat, if you start noticing that you're having some gastrointestinal issues or bloating, headaches, migraines, things like that, that's kind of the biggest cue that should key to yourself. Maybe I have something going on with myself. And my biggest suggestion for people is have a food diary.
Okay.
Have a journal. Write down every single thing that you're eating, including the spices, and then listen to your body. Listen to how you're reacting to those foods that that might be reacting in a different way and making you feel lethargic or causing pain or headaches or migraines and things like that. That'll help you realize maybe there is something going on. And then from there, if you're still having those same symptoms, then I would go see a doctor. You can see an allergist. You can do a skin prick test. That's typically more for symptoms that are quick reactions, like when people are allergic to peanuts and stuff like that, because they look for it after 15 minutes.
Right.
My biggest suggestion, though, with food allergies is getting a blood draw. They have food panels that can test you for 120 foods and 23 spices.
Now, is it like they used to do, where you had to go in and get shots and, they find out what you're allergic to and then you go in like for 30 days in a row?
No, now it's more taking your blood, and then what you'll do is you'll get a list of everything that you're allergic to.
Is it a panel or something?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then when the sheet comes back, it'll tell you what you're highly allergic to, moderately allergic to, and then what maybe you're, just slightly allergic to.
Okay, so after we do that, now what? I mean, it's got to be overwhelming trying to cut out all of this food out of your diet.
Absolutely. That's probably the biggest challenge that you're going to find. And what I try to help people with is embrace this.
Okay.
Embrace what you have and have a positive attitude, and seek out resources. There's a lot of resources on the internet now. Social media is huge, and my biggest tip is ask people for help. Ask your friends for help, because it's like now all of a sudden you're going to need to go to a grocery store, and it's like, what do I buy? Like, where do I go? And that can be very challenging. So my suggestion would be ask a friend who has food allergies to go with you, and go when the store's not crowded, and definitely go when you're not hungry, because you're going to be there for a little while, because you got to look at the labels, you got to just look at everything very differently, but realize that you're not alone anymore. I mean, like I said, 17 years ago there was no support system. Now this is commonplace, so the resources are there and it's a lot easier.
What do you mean when you say do an exploratory trip? Sounds like a field trip.
Well, for example, a friend of mine took me one time to Whole Foods, and we didn't buy anything that day, but we went to the different counters where there was the fresh foods that were there. The foods that it was like, you could try this, or you can look at this. Because a lot of times that first trip is going to be so overwhelming, because there's going to be a lot of foods that you normally think you could eat that now you're not going to be able to eat, and it can be kind of frustrating. So if you let the person know, eat before you go, maybe write down the foods that you normally would like to eat, and then look for those things because it just makes it a lot better experience than going in without knowing anything.
Well, and so many of the grocery stores now have certain areas, so that could help you out a lot, too.
That is true as well, yes.
So find a restaurant or a grocery store that might have that, and that'll help.
Correct.
Thank you, Ken, very much. We are going to have all of your information on SonoranLiving.com, so if you want to get in touch with him, maybe he'll go shopping with you. You never know.
Thanks so much.